Good morning. I think it's morning for most of us. It's most of us in the US anyway. Here we are for another NBJ Live, and I love doing these things on LinkedIn live on LinkedIn. Here we are in front of you today, and we're doing something a little different today. We're calling this one Industry Insights, NBJ's Market Report and Summit Preview. And there's a lot in there. And when I say it's different, often we talk about our most recent report and some of the highlights from that report. And to help me do that this morning is my colleague, market research analyst Erica Kraft, who, if you've been here before, she's the mainstay on these. You know, sometimes it's me, sometimes Rick is here. It seems to be always Erica. And thank God for Erica. So Erica's joining me, and we are gonna do that. We're gonna go through the recent supplement business report. That's our biggie. That's one of our two main reports of the year, the supplement business report. I often talk about NBJ as the what, the where, and the why of the industry. Supplement business report is the what and the where. What's selling and where is it selling? And coming up in just a little bit, and next month, later this month, is the condition-specific report. That's the why. Why are consumers buying the stuff they're buying? Why are they buying magnesium? There's a lot of good reasons to buy magnesium, and in that report, we try to break out how many dollars go to each of those reasons. And then today, before we let you go, we're going to talk about NBJ Summit, which is coming up at the end of this month. What an amazing event. And joining me for that is my co-chair, Jessica Rubino. And so Jessica's here with us, and we'll talk about some of the highlights for NBJ Summit. If you're going to Summit, you'll get a little bit of a preview. If you're not going to Summit, maybe you should think about it. And there's also an opportunity to go to Summit virtually. So maybe this will inspire you to do that. There's plenty of room virtually. There's only a little bit of room left for in-person. So enough of that. Let's get into some of the numbers. And I'm going to hand it over to Erica to take us into the numbers here.
Awesome. Thanks, Bill. And might I say, I love the color refresh that we have for NBJ Summit. I am obsessed with these colors. I don't know if anyone's noticed. If you haven't, it's all right, but these colors are beautiful. So
It's
it's,
all
it's
about the
the
PowerPoint template, right?
yeah, I was gonna say it's the little things that get me excited. I'm like, new colors, a new PowerPoint. Wow. Okay. Anyways, good morning, everyone. Hello. Yes, my name is Erica Kraft. Gonna kick things off here this morning. So we always start these things off just showing everyone a basis and foundation for what's going on in the total industry before getting into details. So for those of you who aren't familiar with NBJ charts, how to read this, on the left is historic sales or actual sales. So those are going to be in those green bars. And then our forecasted sales are going to be the next 4 years forecasted, which are in gray. And just another little tip, sometimes this confused me in the beginning when I first started working for NBJ is, so we're in the calendar year 2025, right? So then we are actualizing or finalizing our estimates for the year prior, right? So we're still in that 2025. So we're still predicting, still forecasting for this year because of course we're only halfway through it. So and then, of course, that growth line is going to be yellow. So overall industry last year in 2024 was estimated to reach about $69 billion. And we saw growth come up to about 5.2%. And over the next couple years, we're seeing it slowly inch up to about 6% into 2028. So lot of interesting insights that are going on within that growth rates that we'll get into now. So
I'll add too, because the thing that confused me about these charts the first time I looked at them is that those bars orient to the left axis, and those are the dollars,
yes.
and then the gold line is our growth line, and that aligns to the right axis. So that's that inching up to 6% that Erica was talking about. You also said halfway through the year. That's so hard to believe. It is though.
I
We're in the
know.
second half of 2025. Okay.
Yeah, it's crazy. I know you were saying Summit is next month and it's this month, and I'm like, yeah, that's right. It's July.
It's July. It's already July.
Surprise. Okay, yes. So what we do here, so we're actually going to go into all of the 6 categories that we tracked within the industry. So when Bill mentioned in the beginning, what this report is measuring is the what. So these 6 categories are going to be the what. So we have sports nutrition, specialty meal replacements, meal supplements, herbs and botanicals, minerals, and vitamins. So the list there on the right is showing 2024 growth. So those are listed from highest to lowest. And then on the left there is basically showing the entire $69 billion industry and breaking it into market share. So as you can see, vitamins have the most amount of dollars in the industry, but it's growing at the lowest rate. But of course, in over the last couple years, mostly from the pandemic, 2020 and 2021, that category saw such high growth. And then in 2022 saw that correction. And so now it's kind of slowly starting to inch its way up there. But with a category that's so large, really 2.5%. I mean, it's low, it's not great, but it's not awful. So just kind of keep that in mind when you're looking at some of these growth rates, like specialty, with it's capturing about 22% of the market, growing at 6.3% is pretty impressive.
It's
And
so
we'll get into that in a little bit. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, it's so impressive. And I came up with this at Vita Foods probably because we were in Spain at the time, but I was calling specialty El Segundo. It's the
Ooh,
second largest category and it's the second fastest grower. And that's really meaningful, right? Because, like you said, vitamins is the biggest, but it's the slowest grower. And that's normal. When you've got that much volume, it's harder to grow at a high percent. But
mhm.
specialties, number two in both. And that means it's sort of the ingredient category to watch.
El Segundo. I like that.
El
That's a fun
Segundo.
word for
Second
that.
place ain't bad.
Yeah, right. It's not always bad. All right. Well, we're going to go ahead and kick things off and start with sports nutrition. So, the fastest growing category that we're tracking. And so, just a reminder, sports nutrition are products like protein powders, your creatines, your protein RTDs, and some other ingredients within there as well, like pre-workout powders, amino acids, etc. And
BCAA.
so BCAs, yes, exactly. And there's a lot of really interesting innovation going on within each of those product categories, but categories saw a little bit of a delayed growth spike than most of the other categories in 2020. So in 2022 is when this category really just, like I say, skyrocketed, but really took a spike there. And then it's slowly going down a bit, but still, I mean, in 2024 at 8.4%, still very, very impressive growth. I mean, really, all types of consumers are consuming these products. I mean, especially creatine is a really good example where there's so many different use cases for this type of ingredient. And it's not just, the people that are going to the gym on a regular basis. People that are just sitting at their desk can take protein powders or creatine. Bill, do you take creatine?
I do take creatine. Yeah.
There you
Yeah.
go.
Just when it started showing up for all the reasons, it's like, wow,
Hmm.
why not? Yeah. So it's true. And so sports is a tricky one to track because am I taking it for sports, for
Right.
fitness, or am I just taking it and being an active person? It's hard to distinguish sometimes.
Yeah,
So we go to the
especially
next.
with well, I was just going to say with the protein functional beverages, those RTDs too, it's like a lot, typically, historically, a lot of consumers would take it for going to the gym or going after the gym. But now with protein being such a big trend, I mean, I think normal people are buying a lot of these products, which is now affecting this whole industry rather than just that one little part of sports nutrition. And then some of the examples of some products that are trending are just on the right there. So the Ritual brand, they typically launch a lot of probiotics, symbiotics, etc. And so I thought it was interesting they have like a daily protein powder, and then the creatine with probiotics. Thought that was interesting that they're combining those two ingredients. And then the Slate, it's just the high protein, low sugar RTD protein. So
Yeah. All right. Apologies about the audio. It sounds like the audio was glitching out a little bit. Hopefully, everyone can hear us now. Um, we'll try to say only interesting things from here on out. Let's go to the next
yeah, right.
category.
All right, so specialty, we already talked about this a little bit, but one thing I always like to point out about this chart is just showing that when most categories saw a really big correction after the pandemic boost in the market, specialty really stayed pretty stable. Growth really is hovering around that 6 to mid 6% range. And it's really just this innovation in this category and that real need and consumer desire for these really specific ingredients like probiotics or collagen or colostrum, like really targeting specific health needs and benefits. And so, again, just some trending ingredients within this category. Of course, collagen showing up everywhere, prebiotics, fiber, and symbiotics, and just showing some brands on the right there. But I thought it was interesting, Bill. Let me know your thoughts on this. The Bloom, colostrum, and collagen. Do you think that's interesting? Or is that
Yeah,
just
I think
me?
that's an interesting combination, and I'd have to think
Right.
more about like why the two of them.
I
Um,
think it makes sense if you think about, where those two ingredients are coming from, where they're
mm,
derived from. But I mean, they're taking two really trending and growing, trendy, I guess, ingredients on social media and kind of combining them. And Bloom is a perfect example of a brand that
yeah,
went viral on
right.
TikTok. So there you
Yeah.
go.
Okay, what's next here? Meal replacement.
Meal replacements. So this is an interesting category, of course, given the GLP-1 craze that's going on right now, and one that we don't anticipate slowing down necessarily anytime soon. So, especially just with more consumers, even on GLP-1 or not, I think more consumers are choosing more clean, nutrient dense powder products and trying to really maximize on the nutrients that they're taking in. So some things that are trending within this category: low sugar, high protein, having that GLP-1 support, and really positioning that protein towards weight management. So those products really show that there on the right.
Yeah, and this is a good opportunity. So again, what we're doing in this episode today is we're reviewing the supplement business report and we're previewing NBJ Summit, which is coming up at the end of the month. And seeing Supergut here, a couple things come to mind. We've got Mark Washington, CEO of Supergut. He's going to be on stage at Summit talking about the category, talking about growth in this area. We've also got Dr. William Davis, who's the author, best-selling author of Wheat Belly. He's coming on. He also has a book called Supergut, two words. Uh, Maybe these two gentlemen will have to have a conversation about that. But but not on stage. On stage, we're just going to be talking about the Ozempic age that we're in and what it means and what is how to look at weight loss in today's, especially in today's supplement market. So that's some of our programming on Tuesday will be around weight loss and what does that mean and is weight loss even the right word? We'll hear from William Davis that he really likes to talk about body composition and shape rather than weight. Yeah, okay, enough on that. We'll come back to NBJ Summit in a little bit, though. Let's go to the next ingredient category: herbs and botanicals.
Oh, this one I am very excited to watch over the next couple years to see how it performs. Again, kind of similar to the specialty category, you have a couple ingredients here that are really showing strong growth. So, ashwagandha, of course, has done really well over the last couple years and is still continuing to perform strongly. And then, of course, mushrooms, and these are, different types of mushrooms, but specifically, that lion's mane and cordyceps mushroom. And then the blends of different ones. But we are right now predicting and forecasting that it's going to be one of the strongest growing categories in the next 3 years or so. So, more consumers are really learning and more about certain types of herbs that can help with certain conditions. So, right, that's stress. So when you hear stress, there's L-theanine. I know that's not necessarily an herb, but there's certain types of ingredients that really work well for certain conditions. And I think brands are doing a really good job at linking those two together. And that stress support is a good example of that.
Yeah, an overlapping category. This is always an interesting one. Mushrooms are technically not botanicals,
Right.
but we do track those as herbs and botanicals. Propolis we don't, but we're showing that product here because it's got ashwagandha in it. And which brings me to Erica. Someone's asked about the previous slide. We're showing the sport product, and we're having it on our meal replacement slide. Can you talk a little bit to how overlap is handled in our data?
Yes, that is actually a really great question. So, kind of speaking to a little bit of that overlap, at MBJ, we have two models, right? We have our supplement business report model and our sports nutrition weight management model. And Bill does a really good job of explaining this, but it's kind of like a Venn diagram. So, there is an overlap between the two. So, those sports nutrition products and some of those meal replacement products that live in both, I guess you could call them industries, models do have some overlap there. So we count them in each of the industries and we show the difference between them. But
Yeah.
yeah, so the Garden of Life is just that specific sport brand. But yes.
Yeah, great. There's another question here too, and I didn't introduce my other co-chair, Tom Arts, founder of NBJ Summit, and I'm not going to bring Tom on yet, but there's a question about headwinds from tariffs and layoffs, layoffs in healthcare, academics, government. What is that doing for consumer confidence? And I think when we move into a lot of what we're talking about at NBJ Summit, we'll cover that. So let's come back to that question in a little bit, and I'm going to ask Tom to speak to that. But let's move kind of quickly through a couple more categories here, Erica.
Perfect. So, I mean, this one can be really quick because the only story here in minerals is magnesium that I know everyone knows about. So it's not anything new. But what I think is really interesting in this category is just that product on the right there by Transparent Labs is that magnesium AM/PM formula. I think there's so many different, categories and benefits that magnesium can help with, but having that innovation and that product uh, curation of really, picking specific types of magnesium for certain things is really what's going to drive more
Yeah,
growth.
it really
So
is interesting. And
yeah.
magnesium just has seen such growth, and it's in the top six ingredients in I think six or seven of the conditions we talk about
Mhm.
in the condition specific report. All right, and last on the growth list, but first on the volume list, vitamins.
Vitamins, yes. So as we mentioned, it's not the highest growing, but some things that we're seeing within this category that are doing well are multis, of course. A lot of new consumers are still entering into our industry, and what do they typically start with? Multis. And so what we're seeing is these more trending types of products like the zero sugar multivitamin gummies. So that's another fun way for more consumers to enter the market. And then B vitamins, but specifically the B complex vitamins I'm seeing a lot of, just because, a lot of people have problems absorbing B vitamins. And so you're starting to see a lot more innovation there.
Great. And then I think we're going next to delivery formats. Always a hot topic.
Yeah, yeah. I actually just did a analyst take on this, which if you don't know what that means, it's basically you can subscribe to MBJ's analyst takes and we let those out about every 2 weeks or so. And it's basically talking about different trends and insights that are going on in the industry and it's free. So if you're interested, let us know. But yeah, so really the story here are some of the things I listed there on the right. So powder, liquid, chewable, quick dissolve. So powder and liquid are very large or larger market shares in terms of those formats on their own, and they're growing quite impressively because, as we all know, consumers are really choosing these more unique types of formats. They want something that's different, something that's getting them a little more excited about their routine. And then another interesting thing here is chewables. Chewables are also growing quite a lot, but it just doesn't have as much of market share quite yet, but it's still definitely one to watch. And then quick dissolve, of course, for that convenience piece of it. But just some of the products there on the right really showing some of that innovation, and then the new strips I think is really interesting too. Those
Yeah,
little
yeah,
dissolves on your
tiny piece of the market, but it's an
yeah,
interesting one. We'll see if
yeah,
it does more.
yeah.
Uh, okay, and there's another question here because we might let you go in a couple minutes, Erica. But um, someone's asking, do you take creatine? We're
Oh,
different generations,
I
different
do take
sexes.
creatine. I take it. It's funny. I started taking it for sports reasons, just for going to the gym and muscle. But now I'm taking it more for brain health. And I know there's a lot of research that's come out that's really good for women. So I was afraid to take it at first, though. I will admit, but fear no
Okay,
more.
fear no more. Hey, and lastly, let's take us through this one, Erica. This is the where, right? This I said the what and the
Yes.
where. We've talked a lot about the what. This is where people are buying this stuff. What are they
Yeah,
buying? Where are
this
they buying it?
is a lot of people are talking about this chart for many different reasons. There's so many interesting channel dynamics that are going on within our industry, and it's changed so much in the last 5 years, and it probably will change even more in the next 3 or 4. So, of course, again, like you see there, sales by channel on the right there, and that story that we've been saying, is that mass market has grabbed that top market share spot when typically it's always been natural and specialty, the channel that's, really built this industry. And so while we're seeing that take the top spot, more people are starting to return in store. We're also starting to see, a lot of innovation happen within natural and specialty, which is that second largest market share spot. So while it's at 2.7% this year, we're actually expecting it to raise in the next couple of years. So that'll be interesting.
Yeah, and this is such an interesting category, and this is a good time to bring in my co-chair Jessica with some comments. I know Jessica and Erica are going to be co-presenting some of our data about about channel dynamics. So, anything you want to say in here, Jessica?
Yes. Yes. Well, first,
Welcome.
hi. Thank you. Thanks for having me, and hi, everyone. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to this portion of the summit. We'll talk more about the summit theme and what we hope people will get out of it. But first of all, great job, guys. And all of this data is so critical to people understanding how to do business in this industry and what to expect moving forward. That's why I love the state of the industry at NBJ Summit. And to build on that this year, we'll really dig into channel strategy. And to do that, we're bringing to the stage Amazon and TikTok and Whole Foods and amazing companies that have really kind of mastered an omni-channel strategy. And for me, that's the big takeaway here is that, we're seeing these key growth areas in retail, but any company doing business in dietary supplements needs to understand the nuance of each of these channels. And what I think is particularly interesting is how companies are leveraging TikTok, but then still developing a really strong brick and mortar strategy. So it's not one size fits all, and it's also not a singular approach. And so understanding consumer behaviors and how consumers are interacting with and engaging with both content and e-commerce and brick and mortar retail is really going to be critical. So, Bill, you and I talked about this the other day, but one thing I wanted to call out that's really interesting is that you also can't make assumptions about where consumers are shopping because we may assume that Gen Z are doing more of their shopping online, but we're actually seeing Gen Z returning to in-store retail. And as Erica noted, we'll continue to see kind of an increase in natural and specialty again and seeing a lift there again. But some of that I think really can be attributed to Gen Z and them really returning to these experiential and community driven shopping aspects. So there's a lot happening here, but we're going to bring great insights to the stage at the summit.
And that's a good long session with you've got experts from all of these channels and you're spending it flowing through that. Not everyone's going to be on stage for 90 minutes, but you are. And
Yes, you're right.
yeah,
I will be. Yes.
good. Yeah.
Yeah, we have a nice chunk of time to dedicate to it because it is really important and there's a lot of shifting going on there. And yeah, I'm looking forward to having the CEO of New Chapter on stage with us as well, Blaine Streisand, as well as the CEO of a company that started off as a digital brand, Cheers, and now is really going into retail as well. So in addition to those retail voices, we'll have real case studies from companies that are navigating this really well. So yeah, lots of different people will be on stage during that chunk of time.
Yeah. And well,
I'll
hey,
just
let's
add one more thing before we go, Bill, if you don't mind, because it
yeah,
was
no, do it.
one that we didn't really talk about that's growing quite a bit, which is that practitioner channel. So some
Hmm.
of our early research this year as well is showing that Gen Z, actually specifically, when we're doing longitudinal data over the last couple years, when it's where are you learning and getting information about your supplements, practitioner has gone up a significant amount. And so that I think is another spot to watch over the next couple years is now that consumers are starting to learn more about these our products naturally, they're going to their doctors and saying, do I need these? I'm interested in this. More consumers want a natural approach to their health. And so I think it's one that we need to keep our eyes on and one that's really important.
Yeah,
Can I
great.
comment on that, Bill, on the practitioner
Yeah,
piece?
well, hey, there we go. Here's Tom Arts,
Uh,
our
Thank you. Hey, hi,
co-chair.
Bill, Jessica,
Hey, Tom.
Erica. How you doing? Great job, Erica. Thank you very much. I learned a lot. No, on the practitioner channel, the I know Erica gets this question a lot, but the practitioner brands, the top ones like Metagenics, DFH, the top 10, which represent about 80% of the channel, have
Like
also started
absolutely.
to go outside of selling through practitioners, right, Erica? So they're like also selling on Amazon. So obviously, one of the questions people ask is, is a Metagenics brand or Designs for Health, if that's sold on Amazon, is that being captured in e-commerce or is that being captured in practitioner? I'll let you answer that question. But that's one of the reasons we're seeing growth in practitioner. They're good brands, they're good products. Consumers are figuring that out. And those companies are going to the consumer beyond just selling through the doctor's office.
Yes. And to answer that question, we try to allocate for both. So,
So, and if I'm not mistaken, what that means is that if it's on Amazon, if it's Designs for Health on Amazon or Pure Encapsulations on Amazon, we do count that as e-commerce, much the way
yes.
Walmart.com is e-commerce, while Walmart, of course, is brick and mortar. But the whole script, full script, these are such interesting models that actually send revenue back to the practitioner, and so we attempt, there's a lot of estimating in here because we don't have visibility into those hard data for those channels, but we attribute those to the practitioner channel if sold through those practitioner websites. Erica, thank you so much for putting this deck together. And I right before the call this morning, right before we went live, I was saying, Erica, there's too much in here. We shouldn't have so much. But the fact is, this is a fraction of what we're going to be talking about at NBJ Summit in our 50-minute, I think, State of the Industry presentation, and then there's also snippets of data before some of the other sessions at NBJ Summit. So there's a lot of good data. Before we go fully over to NBJ Summit, here's a look at the report we were just pulling all this data from, the supplement business report. Scan that QR code or go to nutritionbusinessjournal.com. The report's there, it's available, it's ready. If you buy it now, you'll have it by the end of the day. So thanks for supporting us with the supplement business report. And and thanks so much, Erica.
Yeah.
And now I want to go back to you, Jessica. Let's talk about NBJ Summit, but nutrition industry transformation, leading through innovation. Could you talk a little bit about our theme for this year?
Yes, absolutely. I love our theme for this year because, as both you and Erica noted, I mean, there's so much innovation happening in this space. And
No,
what
I'm
really
still on.
Oh, good. Tom is still on. Yay, Tom. We still have you here. In case anyone was worried, we still have Tom Arts on the call. So, yeah, to really be able to talk about those innovations through the lens of transformation. What does it mean for this industry moving forward? And thinking about why do we transform? Why is it important to the future of this industry to be constantly evolving and exploring these impactful innovations? And then how do we transform, whether that's through product innovation or through new ways of leading our teams and our people, through healthcare transformation, through industry transformation. So it really opens up so much opportunity to talk about all of these exciting things that are happening in the space, but then really say, why does it matter and how can we influence? And we feel it's more important than ever in this point in time to make sure that we're making the most of this key opportunity to be bringing health solutions to more people and holistic options to more people. So this idea of transformation truly can affect all of society and how we live. And I think that's really empowering.
Yeah, yeah, well said. Thank you. Yeah, it's a juicy theme this year. And Tom, I'll invite you in too. I get to play MC this morning since I'm on both
Thanks.
teams, the NBJ team and the Summit team, and I'm honored to be a co-chair with Jessica and with Tom. So, yeah, Tom, take it away. Whatever you want to talk about.
Sure. Yeah, just tell me to cut me off whenever you want. But I'll build on what Jessica said about the theme. I mean, it's we oftentimes say the themes are like throwaway platitudinal statements, and we try at the summit to try to stick to the theme as much as we can. So it's about, obviously innovation, creating transformation, as Jessica said, but for companies And for the industry, because we're talking a lot about what, what we need to do as an industry. We have some really good conversations at the highest levels of CEOs talking about, what's going on in the government and all that stuff over there that's going to impact us. So that's how do we transform the industry. And then the last day, I don't know, I have a couple slides, Bill, if you want to put them up, but the last day, we're going to talk about individual transformation, and we're going to do something really fun for the first time ever. So I'll start at the bottom there, but we're going to have a biohacking virtual experience. Jessica and Bill, we work together to try to do something where we can bring some of the biohacking devices and modalities into the audience for us to try some of those things. And biohacking, we haven't talked about that. Eric is going to be kind of analyzing that as we go forward. But there's this whole biohacking community. Dave Asprey and Ben Greenfield is one of our speakers, and we're going to talk about how biohacking and transformation of our own health is also an opportunity for the industry as well. So that's I'm really excited. We sound like we're promoting the summit a lot here, Bill, and I'm really glad we are. But I also want to point out that we will be sold out as of Monday or Tuesday of next week. So it's not like I'm trying to say anybody here who wants to go to the summit should get on board, but we do cap we cap it at about 400 people, and we're just about there. So we'd love to have anybody on this call to come if you're a C-level executive, but I would sign up pretty quick, and we're just super thrilled about the program this year. So as
And
Bill
if you're
said,
not a C-level
go ahead,
exec,
Bill. Go ahead, Bill. Yeah.
sorry. And if you're not a C-level exec, or if you miss out on those last few spots, virtual is a great way to get all the content. You don't get the meals, you don't get the seaside, unless that's where you live, but you get the content and you get to watch all this stuff. So, Tom, this might be a good time. I mean, we're like, there's so much going on in the government, right? And there's so much opportunity. Under RFK and that the FDA commissioner's attitude towards supplements, we've got a lot of opportunity for this industry, and a lot of people are excited about that. And at the same time, that same government, not the same people, but we've got tariffs and we've got DOGE happening, which is affecting various areas of government. And so going back to that question that someone dropped into the chat, with the headwinds like tariffs and layoffs in healthcare and academics, what is that doing for consumer confidence and growth? We don't have data to answer that question, but you're really close to the industry on a daily basis. What's your thought about that, Tom?
Sure. Well, yeah. So I saw that question and been thinking about the best way to answer it, and it's a long answer that we'll dive deeper into when we meet in July. But first of all, in the last few months, we are noticing a bit of consumer confidence decrease in the economy, in life in general. I mean, just look at what's going on in the world, right? You got, stuff going on overseas and conflict, and we've got the government and conflict in the government between a lot of people there. But I mean, it's basically whenever there's that kind of like unrest or that unsuredness, then that influences consumers' buying decisions. So that's a no-brainer to say that there's less consumer confidence. The question is impacting people's buying habits at the shelf. We don't know that exactly. I mean, we don't monitor, spins week to week or day to day. I think Erica does more than I do. But Erica, when we talked the other day, you agreed that that we're seeing some consumer shifting of, not running away from the category because we're obviously we're recession resilient for sure. But you're seeing some trading down at all? Are we seeing that in some of the latest things that you've talked to? We can just discuss that.
Yeah, I wouldn't say I've done a full detailed analysis and breakdown on it yet, but I think we're starting to see some hints of that. But I can't speak to, unit versus sales on that yet. So
Yeah.
but I agree with you. I think that, given everything that's going on right now, it would make sense. So
Yeah.
You feel though that it impacts other categories more, and even other consumable categories. Like Erica, when we worked on our State of Natural, we looked at the economy being one of the reasons that people are scaling back on alcohol, for example, and so replacing alcohol with more more healthier beverages. And so some of these things create an interesting dynamic of it really reinforces that consumers are prioritizing health and purchases that are going to put their health first. And then some other things that may be more related to certain lifestyles or other expenses they may be letting go. So I think we have a lot to show us that consumers are still prioritizing health, and obviously a deeper exploration around whether they're trading down or deprioritizing quality. I think we need to look at that more, but I'm really optimistic about consumers continuing to make decisions that are going to support health span, which I believe is kind of the driver of this entire industry and will weather the economic storm and some of the other uncertainties around administration and other things. So we have
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm glad you brought that up because we did ask, like in times of economic hardship, what categories are you going to cut back on? And supplements was at the bottom. And so I believe it was only somewhere between 20 and 35% of all consumers. It wasn't just supplement consumers. Any average consumer said that they would cut back on it. And especially when you break it out by generation, the younger generations were the least amount to give that up, right? So the older consumers were more willing to give up their supplement spending versus those younger consumers. So totally agree, Jessica.
And I think the belief that we've held, like especially through the pandemic, and of course the pandemic was not just an economic recession, but it was a health, a health pandemic. But even in the Great Recession in 2008, 2009, consumers seem to recognize that supplements, as expensive as they might be, are less expensive than getting sick. So that's maybe a rosy view, but I think we have a fair amount of evidence to show that people that doesn't keep them from trading down, though. Tom, back to your comment.
No. I mean,
You
I've talked
definitely
to some of the brands, like some of the brands that are sort of like more middle market price. They're excellent brands like Now Foods or Nature Made. I mean, they're high quality, but their sales are up higher than even your growth numbers. Um, I haven't really talked to some of the companies that are more expensive. I've seen some of the practitioner brands have a little bit of challenge in the last 2 to 3 months, and they're the most expensive. So that's just a theory. I think we'll have more evidence by then. The other
well,
thought
Tom.
I wanted to bring up, Bill, can I talk about
Yeah.
our guest keynote speaker, Callie
Oh,
Means?
please do. Yeah, that's a great
Thanks.
time to talk about it. Yeah.
So Callie Means was one of the authors of Maha. I know Maha's controversial and MAGA's more controversial. He's not coming as like, the Maha guy. I just want to be clear about that. But he was involved. He was the one that put together RFK Jr. and Trump initially, which was this sort of interesting marriage. And so we do have a direct pipeline through Callie now, directly speaking to the HHS secretary and the FDA, head of FDA.
And the president.
Yeah, well, and Callie spent 4 months in the White House, the last 131 days. So yeah, so he's been the liaison. So he's kind of seeing it all. He doesn't really understand our industry yet, but he says it's important industry. It's important for RFK Jr. It's important for the FDA, commissioner. And we may have someone from the FDA we've invited. We don't know if they're coming yet, but we're going to have a chance to talk to Callie about what is we want as an industry. This is supposed to be the golden age for us, where we've got a lot of opportunity, but a lot of people in the industry haven't seen it happen with tariffs and the economy and all the stuff that you mentioned earlier, Bill, about the conflicts that are on both sides of the fence. But we're going to get a chance to sort of tell Callie, here's what we are, here's what we're about, here's what we need. And, we're going to have private and public conversations with him. So I'm super excited about that. I've probably never been more excited about a speaker at our summit.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really great, and and controversial, right? Which is fun in its own
Yeah,
right.
we always like to shake it up, Bill. You know that.
Yeah, right. Well, you mentioned keynotes. I'm going to go to your other slide, Tom. You just talked about Callie Means. We've got a couple others. We've got
Yeah.
not on this slide, but I'll just mention Diana Kander. Super fun, really a riveting keynote speaker. She's going to talk about curiosity and innovation, and that promises to be not just a lot of fun, but a very informative and inspiring way to start our Wednesday morning. And then on Thursday, Tom, who are these other fellas?
Yeah, and Diane is great because we always have a leadership speaker. Last year we had Marcus Buckingham. Diane is going to be equally as brilliant to help people with innovation. We got Brian Kennedy, who's he's not very well known, but he's kind of like, he's kind of like the David Sinclair of longevity from a research standpoint. So he knows more about the longevity landscape than most people globally. So we're really honored to have him. And then Ben Greenfield, he's just going to be fun as heck, but he's going to talk about biohacking and what biohacking is. And it's going to be more almost of a personal challenge to people in the audience, but he's going to be a lot of fun, and he's got millions of followers, and so we're going to have him there the last day. So the last day is all about longevity.
Well, let's talk about that last day. And Jessica, let's bring you back
Yeah.
into the conversation. That Tom mentioned it already. He said,
Sorry, I stole Jessica's thunder. Jessica's
well, no,
more excited
it's
about
funny.
this than I am.
It's all of our thunder. There's enough thunder to go
There's a
around.
lot of thunder. But yeah, we're doing this executive wellness experience on Thursday. Jessica, maybe not only what is it, but like Tom said, we're doing this for the first time ever. Like, what's so darn different about it?
Oh man, well, everything's different about it. We're all extremely excited about it to bring these biohacking modalities and even more than that, be able to create an environment that's all about nurturing ourselves as leaders. And within this industry, it very much is that idea of you have to take care of yourself in order to do that important work that's driving the industry, but then to have it tied to these topics around health span, longevity, biohacking that are very much related to dietary supplements. Tom had mentioned this earlier, that there's opportunity here. And so this is a really experiential way to understand what that looks like. And we actually have some interesting consumer research showing that consumers say that taking dietary supplements and adjusting their dietary supplement regimen is actually what they consider their number one biohacking technique. So they're actually thinking about biohacking not just as these, for some people, these kind of off the wall things, or if you're not into cold plunges or infrared saunas, are you not a biohacker? And actually, if you're, wearing a wearable device and making updates to your supplement regimen, that is biohacking, these incremental changes that impact your health. And so I think it's really cool that we're taking that whole concept and saying this matters to the industry, but now experience it and nurture yourself and just have a great day. I mean, the executive wellness experience, it's going to be set up by Brian Kennedy and Ben Greenfield, talking about longevity, talking about the future of this space, and then leading into this just beautiful celebration. So for those who are coming to the summit, make sure that you stay through the day on Tuesday. It'll go until the afternoon, 2 or 3 p.m. And then for those who are thinking about coming to the summit, definitely reach out, because we'd love to share more about what this day is all about. And it's really going to be the perfect culmination of all these discussions around transformation. So yeah, I'm really excited about it. And then Bill, you're going to have that healthcare transformation panel earlier in the week, which I can't wait for, because we had that planning call and the ideas coming from these practitioners and all different people in all different kind of channels and spaces, talking about the blending of healthcare and retail and supplements is so fascinating right
And
now.
it's really, I know, I love it. It's really fascinating, and it's going to be such a good flow, because we're going to go. We've got the Kelly Means thing. I might get the order wrong here, but we're also bringing in a bunch of regulatory experts, and Rick Polito, editor-in-chief of NBJ, is going to be moderating a panel of regulatory folks to better understand what's going on there, and and looking at that, and then I get to do this healthcare panel. Like, let's talk about healthcare in the broader sense, not just dietary supplements. And we've got Lise Alschuler, who's just stepping in now as president of Sonoran University. As Dr. Paul Mittman retires, we've got James Laval from Lifetime, which is no longer Lifetime Fitness, but it's like this whole universe of health, and they're really stepping in a big way into dietary supplement sales and tracking of metrics, and then shifting sales, so sort of personalization along with the gym and the Jim, GYM, and Jim Laval is going to be talking about that and the intersection of pharmaceuticals. And we've got Dr. Jeff Bland on there, the father, or is he the grandfather at this point, of functional medicine. But he's also, he's showing up as a CEO of a dietary supplement company, so giving us that perspective. And there's just so much in that conversation that'll be really interesting. I want to go back to the Thursday thing too, because at the end of the day, literally at the end of the summit, it's also a party, right? You said we're bringing in these experiences and food like PEMF and infrared saunas and all these opportunities for these people to step into these modalities and experience them, along with cocktails, elixirs, mocktails,
DJ,
and a really great.
painting. There might even be some painting. Bringing out all the stops. It's going to be great. Yes.
I was just bummed out, Bill, that we couldn't get a cold plunge because the hotel wouldn't let us do that because I wanted to see you in a cold plunge, Bill.
Oh, yeah. Well, thank you. The ocean's close by, but you can get into the ocean from there. You just can't get back out. There's a big cliff in the way. Yeah.
And I think we're probably wrapping up, but one final thing that I wanted to share about this theme and some of the questions that were shared in the chat is NBJ Summit is always, I believe, the best opportunity to come together and say, how do we raise the bar for this industry? How do we truly earn and then continue to build consumer trust? And what are the things that we can do as an industry to ensure that we're serving the end users of these products and that this industry is here to deliver real health results to people. And at times like this, I think that's more important than ever to come together as an industry and earn the trust. So uncertain times, I think, call for that, and the NBJ Summit always delivers.
Yeah. Yeah, thanks, Jessica. And I'm borrowing this concept from Mark Blumenthal. He's probably not the only one to have had it, but it really was impactful on me a few years ago. And Mark Blumenthal, head of ABC, American Botanical Council, but he said often when we talk about the dietary supplement industry as if it's this monolithic thing that there's, and so there's plenty in the media about how corrupt and fraudulent the dietary supplement industry is. And we're over here saying, no, it's not true. And over here, we're saying it's a very responsible industry and we're trying to do all the right things. And I think the unfortunate reality, or fortunate, I guess, on the one hand, but it's both. It's all of those things, and it's not a monolithic thing. And I think our role as NBJ Summit, bringing this community together, and the same could be said for the trade organizations, CRN, UNPA. We're talking about the responsible industry, the people who want to be in these.
They'll all be there, Bill. All the associations will be there.
Yeah, and it's the responsible industry coming together. Now Foods, who has done so much for the industry to battle counterfeiting on Amazon. Jim Emmy is there every single year and such a supporter of it. And so it's such an important opportunity, I think, to bring the responsible industry together. How do we come together? How do we work together to improve all the aspects and conditions of this industry? So that's what we try to do here. That's what we try to do at New Hope. That's that's what Tom's put his career to, and so it's all it's really exciting, and I'm really excited to have this conversation this morning. Thank you for joining us, and I'm excited to see who we get to see at the end of the month at NBJ Summit. Any last words, Tom, Jessica?
No, sign up today if you're going to come. Thank you.
Great. Yeah. Okay, good. And thank you again, Erica, for the great data. So much more to come. And good morning. Signing off. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Thank you, Jessica. Thank you, Erica.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.